Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to do a little of a diddly here to kind of talk about being a dungeon master and creating your own campaign. And I've been wanting to develop a one-shot, so I figure I'm just gonna go through some of the motions, show you guys some of the tools that I use, and get a one-shot prepped that anybody should be able to hopefully pick up and play. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to develop the entire one shot. I'm just going to be getting most of the kind of core ideas down so that they can be further developed. But you'll get a good feel for, I guess, kind of what the strategies behind, the campaign is, and just having fun with it along the way is the important part. So, a couple of tools that you want to make sure that you're using. The Dungeons Master's Guide, of course, especially if you've never built a world. You've got this chapter 2, creating your adventure, how to build your NPCs. Um, this is probably the best way to start if you don't already have an idea of what you're trying to do. And then once you do have an idea of what you're trying to do, I find that this can kind of block you in a little bit too much. So take bits and pieces that are useful to you as you're creating your own campaign. Kind of a couple of the things that you will pull up over and over again, though. The treasure. So you've got ways that you can provide random rewards to your players without necessarily having to, strain over what am I going to give them. And then let's see here. You've got options to do some homebrew stuff, create your things. Um, Take a read through the DMG. It's definitely something you want to look at. And of course, the player's handbook is another kind of critical piece of the puzzle. Um, this is your player's Bible, so you want to make sure that you understand all the details in here as well. Important parts are going to be combat, maybe adventuring, using ability scores. Those are the things that you'll be running into as a DM most of the time. Whereas only very rarely do you work with, okay, what equipment do they need, that type of stuff. And you can always just look that up as you go. So yeah, I took a few notes on some things that I wanted to mention. So let's see here. So basically, when you're designing a campaign, you're going to have a couple of different types of encounters, right? You're going to have your social encounters. So you go to the shops, you're talking to NPCs, they're taking on quests. You've got your combat, of course, which is fairly straightforward into and out of combat, fighting. Or if they're trying to persuade their way to not fight, those are still considered combat. And then you've got your special encounters. These can be expository, like a king giving a speech to his subjects. You may or may not be able to interact. Things like traps are also special encounters. Um, yeah, so all of those are tools that we'll have in our tool belt to kind of flesh out the world as it's coming. So a couple of just notes that I took here. Creating the story. What I like to do is start with the largest goals first, work your way into finer detail. Is it a one shot? How many sessions is it going to be? What happens if someone can't play? What story you want to tell? Is it political intrigue? Is it a war campaign? Peacetime? Foolhardy adventure? Who are the major players going to be? Like your bad guy, what does he want? What does he need to do to get it? Who's trying to stop him? General locations. Is it an island? Is it an icy, snowy area? Are you in the Underdark? The setting of your campaign can do a lot towards helping you develop and flesh out the characters that you're going to be playing with, as well as the environment that you're going to be playing in. But don't lock everything in. A lot of the fun of D&D is that you have some ideas going into it. You pick up the best of those ideas when the time comes, and everybody together, we create this awesome story. So creating the actual campaign piece of it, just remember that the world comes from the players. It's not worth your time to sit there and map out a city and decide, okay, here's where all the major shops are, what they're going to sell, and next to them are their warehouses, and here's who runs them. And by the time you've finished, fleshing out all the people of your city, the player's going to come in, interact with two of them, and leave. And then you've done all this work for not a whole lot of reward. So what we do usually is, what are your players? What are their motivations? What information do you need them to find? What's the narrative hook for the session that you're doing? How are you going to deliver the information that they need? Are they going to overhear it? Is it going to be a quest or a social encounter? All of those tools that we have. That way, For example, Book One Necronomicon, everybody was supposed to start in the circus, but for those first few sessions, we just couldn't get enough players together at the same time. So rather than, scrap the campaign, I just spread it out. Gyatso came from up north. He had a little bit of time on a boat. Then he arrived at the docks. And as, I was doing one-on-one sessions with everybody, getting them more excited to play, and we could all start playing together again. Suddenly we're all together. We've all got motivations. Two of them were headed towards the air temple. Um, Brahm was there guarding a caravan, which later became a narrative hook on how to get us down south. So all of these are things that you know, if I had tried to write any of it beforehand, it wouldn't have been as good. But yeah, so when we're actually talking about preparing the world as well, things that I like to have on hand is just lists of NPC names, lists of town and location names, so I'm not trying to think of them on the fly. I do try to plan what can I buy and where, as far as, shops inside of a major city. I don't really go much farther than that though. And I probably wouldn't actually pin them on a map anywhere specifically. It would just be like, no, you go into the armor district, you find many shops that carry the armor that you need. And then I tend to not really do the social encounters for shopping as much as a lot of other folks do. I don't feel that they're that fun for me really. Um, and I mean, it's just you're buying stuff. You're either going to find it, you're not going to find it, or you're going to have to go get some items to craft whatever it is you need. So, but yeah, I do try to make sure that I know who the locals are, how do they feel about what's going on in the world, the politics, the players, that type of thing. Who are the major NPCs, the bad guys, also the people that are going to be on your side, the people you encounter the most in your encounters. You really want to make sure that you flesh them out. Um, Not intensely, but make sure you've got a 3 to 5 sentence to sum up their background. Know what they want, what they need, what they desire, uh, how they would react to, a positive thing, a negative thing, how they would react to trying to be, seduced, for example, something that comes up pretty often, especially if you have a bard in the party. Let's see here. Yep, I generally just create these as I need them. I can usually flesh out a major NPC about 5-10 minutes, doesn't take too long, and then save them, reuse them for later. Same with the minor NPCs, develop around 5 archetypes that you can put together, call on at any time, and then whenever you're in an encounter, they encounter somebody coming down the road, you've got at least something that you can draw on as you're kind of building the storytelling muscles. Really, that's all D&D is. It's just building that storytelling, gland in your brain that helps you make a story good. So that's the major NPCs, that's the minor NPCs. I feel maps are optional. They are certainly helpful, but they do tend to be a bit of a time sink to get a map looking good the way that you want it. So when I am making a campaign, I do like to make my maps. I save them for last. And if I don't have time, if I'm in a time crunch, then the map's the last thing that I would possibly do. So I would just draw live, on Roll20 or um, never really made maps before doing it digitally. Really just did hand drawing on like a mat for everybody, and we would use, boxes and cans and stuff to represent stuff on the table. Monsters in the cavern, for example. But yeah, creating maps can be pretty cathartic though. So especially once you've fleshed out a lot of the major pieces of it, if you're trying to avoid going too deep into some of those, working on the map can, help you get a geographic scale of relationships. So that's pretty fun when you're working with those. All right, so that brings us down into actually creating the game. So first you need to know what's your goal. What's success look like? What's failure look like? What's the reward going to be for either of those things? I typically plan for 3 to 5 events, things that are going to happen in the campaign. These are also narrative hooks usually, trying to get the players to head in one direction or the other based on XYZ. So for example, in a dungeon, you might do, they're going to 1, find the entrance, 2, disarm the trap at the entrance, 3, fight the temple guardian, 4, explore for treasure, and then 5, escape at a collapsing tunnel. If you can fit all 5 of those things into the campaign, then you've got a nice little story arc. They've fought a boss, they've had to, work with the world. That's usually a pretty good time. Like that by itself would be a fine one shot. You know, delve into this little dungeon, fight a couple of things. If they're moving too quickly through the dungeon, you could always add some extra encounters in there as needed, or beef up your encounters as needed. But just like the events we were talking about earlier, if it's a social event, maybe they're in town, they just got back from an adventure, they're probably going to want to go to the shop, search for hard to find materials, go to the inn, get a drink, maybe find some information that might lead them to sneak into a guardhouse and steal like a secret map or something that you can use as seeds to plant for future stories or future adventures that you want them to go on. But yeah, I mean, when you're working with that structure, your campaign kind of like the actual session itself lays it out fairly, straightforward. You know that you want them to go A, B, C, D, and E, and then they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and it's just a matter of, herding cats at that point. How do you get them, or how do you change what you had planned to do so that it now is fitting within the story that they're telling? That's another fun way to go about it. Maybe they were supposed to encounter, an enemy in a warehouse, but they decided to go to the bar and turn down for the night. Well, maybe he breaks in and he's robbing the place in the evening, and they have to encounter him that way instead. Being flexible with how you've written your story is just as important as the players kind of picking up on those hints, like, hey, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, go in this direction. Or they just completely derail you, and that's fine too. Those are great sessions. But yeah, define who your major players are, what they want for the campaign. That individual session, you don't have to think past that really too much. Define where your players are making their entrance and what your actual players want. That's important too. That way, I can't tell you how many times I've started new players in a tavern and didn't give them instruction or any narrative hook or any reason to do anything, and they're all just sitting there at a tavern staring at each other. Um, or it goes the other way and they won't leave the tavern and I have to set it on fire. Those types of things happen all the time. But let's see here. Other things to just kind of take a look at. Let's talk tools for a moment. Let me close out of some of these tabs. Okay. Donjon's my go-to for names because I can just very easily have lists of names ready to go. I don't tend to write these down because I'll just, generate a new set of names when I need them. It's not too hard. I've got this bookmarked. Same for, well, I guess you got Dwarven town names, Elvish town names, so that kind of takes care of that piece of it. But you can do a lot more with this too. Let's see, where's my NPC? No? Let's see, random town generator's not bad. I use the random dungeon generator all the time. It's a great tool. Yeah, I guess this isn't where I do my NPCs, is it? Okay, let me take a look. Quick Google search usually yields the results that you're looking for. NPC generator, 5th edition. Yeah, that one's pretty good. So this gives you pretty much all that you would need to insert her, even, a plot hook. Head of a local drug dealing circle. 159-year-old female rock gnome farmer. It's got some great visuals to tell people. Um, Personality traits pretty good as well. Again, I usually just do these as templates, so I'll pull bits and pieces from this and I'll rewrite some of these as I feel I need to fit my story. Oh, she's blind. That's pretty cool. But yeah, you can see that it gives you a huge, huge list. So I can do a female troglodyte that's evil with a funky plot hook who is a artificer. All right. Extra finger on her left hand. Interesting. Worships the archdevil Bel. Always has a backup plan. That's pretty cool. And she's slowly becoming a plant. All right. See, I can work with that. That's an amazing tool for you to use. NPCgenerator.com's that one. There's a couple of other ones. I think I've used Kassoon before as well. Yeah, this one's pretty good. It goes a little bit more in depth, and let's see if it actually builds it out. So let's do male, human. Let's do a barbarian. I want this to be, let's make him a level 15. He's going to be any good. Yep. All right. Got a good description of him, personality, a little bit of a history, motivation. This is all the stuff that is good to have on hand. All right. You can see his possessions. So if he gets robbed or killed, this is what he has on him. Looks like he's a bit of a merchant. AC 11, he's squish. 113 HP though, it's not bad. But for a barbarian, level 15, how does he have a level? I don't know. And this is 5e, right? And that's another thing too. When you're looking at these, just make sure that it feels right. I mean, as a level 15 barbarian, I feel like he should probably have a better armor class and he should probably have more HP. It doesn't necessarily give him any equipment though, so I can still put some gear on him that might help balance him out a little bit, or just rewrite him to suit the needs that I have. You don't have to use the random generator. It's just there so you don't have to do everything from scratch. So yeah, all that being said, I'm gonna develop just a little bit of a one-shot. I guess I'm gonna put it in the D&D universe. It's gonna use the D&D rule set. But it's not necessarily going to be mages and magic. I want to do a little bit more of a steampunk theme. So let's see here. All right, so I'm going to set my big goals. It's going to be a one-shot. Okay, it's going to be in a steampunk setting, but still D&D 5e. And I want the setting to actually be an island in the sky, a floating island. All right. Let's see here. What kind of one-shot is this going to be? I guess I'm going to make this a foolhardy adventure. All right. So I had this idea while I was writing that I wanted some of the well-to-do families, the nobility of this floating island, to be at odds with each other. So let's see, 2 noble families. But it's not like a wartime thing. They're just at odds with each other. Let's see. So, son of opposing family. What does he want? It's not going to be a thing. Let's see. He wants the hand of the main characters. Let's see. Hand of the daughter. So an opposing family wants the hand of the daughter of the other family. All right. Not great English, but it gets the point across. Let's see. What does he need to get it? He needs to write a poem, because it's going to be a foolhardy adventure. A poem that will win her over. All right, who's stopping him from doing that? His father won't let him leave to find inspiration. Okay. Alright, so that's the major players. Who's the bad guy? What does he want? What does he need to get it? Who's trying to stop him? So we can make a note here. Major players. We've got. So we probably got the fathers, both families. We have the eldest son and eldest daughter. All right. Let's see here. It's going to be the major players. Probably going to have some sort of a guard. So let's see. Bodyguard for both families. That's probably going to be it. We're going to have a bunch of minor players like the brothers and sisters. We're going to have NPCs in the household like the maids, etc. And let's see here. So who else? If they're going to be writing a poem, they're going to need to find a bard. I'm just going to call him the Bard. All right. Well, let's see here. I don't have players yet. I'm not sure what their motivations are going to be. But that's fine. As a one-shot, you would want him to. So basically, here's the events that have to happen, right? So one, they need to learn of the love and how to help. That's the first thing anyway. I'm not sure what these other ones are going to fill out to quite yet, but let's think this through a little bit more. So um, basically, we've kind of got a Romeo and Juliet thing going on here, which isn't bad. He needs to write a poem that will win her over. So they're going to need to go find the bard. So they would learn that there is an artisan artisan bard that was visiting that was just about to leave that was going to train him if only he could deliver a fancy bottle of wine. So they need to learn of love and how to help. Once they learn of that, they need to deliver a wine for the poem. Okay. All right, so that gives them kind of a narrative hook to get the game started. They're going to have to encounter a problem delivering the bottle of wine. This will be a social encounter. Let's do the path is blocked by police. Shut down to a murder. And this is where you can kind of amp it up or amp it down. I mean, we're delivering a bottle of wine in exchange for a poem. Ooh, super exciting. But if on the way we witness a murder, or we don't witness a murder, but we're stopped due to a murder, now we've suddenly got these side paths that are opening up to us. Let's see here. So, shut down due to a murder, and maybe the perceptive of the group spots someone running. So at that point, they're either going to pursue or try to find another way around. If they pursue or move on from there, either way, once they get to the docks, let's see here, they pursue or move on, they get to the docks, and then they see the figure hiding, and I mean, these are sky islands, so they're not going to have like escape boats. What would they have? Let's call it a utility shed. Okay. So figures hiding in a utility shed. Let's see if I need to drop more hints. Maybe follow blood trail. Okay. And you can see how I'm kind of building in possibilities here. It's like, well, they could do this, they could do that, they could do the other. When you actually get to the game, they're probably going to do something entirely different that you didn't plan for. Um, but at least with this, you've thought through what some of the other options would be, and you can apply those same tactics to whatever, wrench they're throwing into the system. Let's see. So they find that murderer equals the bard. What a twist. Okay. So 4. Let's see. They learn of the murder and why. Either let him escape or turn him into the T's. And then 5. Return to the main objective. Let's see, what would we do? To the elder son's estate, with or without poem. All right, so um, this is a pretty good start. I mean, we've got a fair idea of what needs to be done. We know how to introduce that for the most part. This still needs to be fleshed out. I would probably do about this much of it, let it go, come back to it in about an hour. That way I'm looking at it fresh. Reread through everything, start putting names to the fathers and the eldest sons, name the families, that type of thing. Maybe come up with a brief idea of what the family trees look like, how many brothers, sisters, maybe flesh out a little bit of more about the society. That's what I haven't really done yet. You want to make sure that you know what the NPCs around them feel about the different things. So they're in a society, they've got nobility, noble families. I would probably put that, I mean, it's a peacetime, pretty much France in the 16, 1800s, something like that. You got your peasants down on the lower end selling fruits and veg, while the nobility are making deals between other floating islands and making most of the money. So plenty of room in that type of a description for intrigue. Murder wasn't hard to throw in there. It'd be easy to, write a motivation. Why did the bard want to murder somebody? Um, you know, can't think of a reason at the moment, but, he's a bard. Probably insulted him. Used vicious mockery just one too many times, and he snapped. So, but yeah, so those are a few of the ideas that I've had for a one shot. I am going to continue working on this on my own time, and then once I've got it put together, maybe I'll do a reveal of the one shot that I have and see if anybody wants to run through it. But I think that's all I'm going to do for now. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time.